This podcast is brought to you by Carvana. Buying a car shouldn't eat up your week. That's why Carvana made it convenient. Car buying that fits around your life, not the other way around. You can get pre-qualified for an auto loan in just a couple of minutes and browse thousands of quality car options, all within your terms, all online, all on your schedule. Turn car buying into a few clicks and not a full week's endeavor. Finance and buy your car at your convenience on Carvana. Financing subject to credit approval. Additional terms and conditions may apply.
Hey there, travelers. Kaylee Cuoco here. Sorry to interrupt your music, great artist BT Dubs, but wouldn't you rather be there to hear it live? With Priceline, you can get out of your dreams and into your dream concert. They've got millions of travel deals to get you to that festival, gig, rave, sound bath, or sonic experience you've been dreaming of. Download the Priceline app today, and you can save up to 60% off hotels and up to 50% off flights. So don't just dream about that trip. Book it with Priceline.
Go to your happy price, Priceline.
The Rush Hour with James Golden. Entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
There is no denying that the Russians interfered in the election. Right. Whether or not they had willing or unwitting help from the Trump team, they interfered, and they did so to help him and hurt me, and they did so to destabilize our democracy, and they have not stopped.
Well, I think a major organization of the national security apparatus, at least here at the White House within the National Security Council, has indeed taken place, and the president entrusts his current CIA director, John Ratcliffe, and our ODNI director, Tulsi Gabbard, to make the necessary changes to ensure classified intelligence, especially that could implement or hurt the national security of our country, does not make its way into the hands of irresponsible actors who want to politicize that intelligence for their own end. Since you brought up the declassification report that was put out by Senator Grassley today, I'm glad you brought it up, because this should be a story every outlet in this room should be covering. This is further evidence that Hillary Clinton approved the Russia hoax against President Trump. Her campaign financed it. Again, she approved it. And the FBI and the CIA were both weaponized to, as our director of CIA has said, accelerate this hoax against then-candidate and former President Trump. To answer the heart of your question, the president wants to see justice served, and he trusts the Attorney General and the Department of Justice to implement that justice and hold these people accountable.
There needs to be accountability. Welcome, my friends, to the Thursday edition of Buzz Snerdley's Rush Hour. This, the fastest hour in American media. Story broke today, released declassified appendix to the Durham report, shedding additional light on the Clinton campaign, their plans to falsely tie Donald Trump to Russia, and the failures of the FBI. The FBI apparently in the bag for Hillary Clinton back then. And what was released today is stunning. It is not unexpected for those of us that have been following this story for 10 years on and off. It is not anything that surprises us, but it is now being made public in ways that will either be ignored by the same mainstream media outlets that were helping the Democrat Party, their allies, their friends in the Democrat Party, to peddle this nonsense in the first place. It will either be ignored, which many outlets will probably choose that route, or they will try to find some rationale to come up to the defense of not only Hillary Clinton, but also to Barack Obama. Because Obama is into this up to his eyeballs. His administration was. They knew what was going on. For those that, especially younger members of this audience and my staff, who weren't around to actually pay attention to this stuff, I understand as we get complex and in the weeds of this stuff, it makes your eyes glaze over, because it's stuff that happened. You weren't around, you weren't paying attention necessarily while this stuff was unfolding. So let me just explain this. One of the reasons that there is so much animosity about Donald Trump and his presidencies now was because of the way that he was cast during his first term. It began with the trip down the elevator when Donald Trump spoke about immigration in ways that members of the mainstream press thought would completely disqualify him from office. Much to their surprise and to the surprise of the establishment Republicans at the time, like Jeb Bush and like the others, not only they were all running against Donald Trump in that primary season. When Trump announced, no one took him seriously among the establishment class. They were all like, this guy, come on. And then when he started speaking in the manner that he speaks, they further thought, oh, this guy doesn't have a chance. The American people will never buy that. They were so out of touch that they didn't understand that Donald Trump was actually speaking the language of everyday Americans, the language that is not spoken in Washington, D.C., by members of both parties, not just the Democrats. The move has been on since 2016 to discredit Donald Trump. Hillary Clinton's campaign was actively involved in trying to discredit him by using the levers of power of government to do it. She was the Secretary of State. Her influence was greater than Secretary of State, having been a First Lady, having been instrumental in lining up helping to create the current day deep state of the United States of America. She has influence far beyond title and had it. Working with law firms, and this law firm comes up again in all this, Fusion GPS. Working with the levers of power that go beyond the bureaucracy, then working with the intelligence services, and with the knowledge of the Obama administration and the knowledge of the FBI, Hillary Clinton, and the DNC, they're also in the mix here. The whole cabal of Democrat Party deep state liberals actively worked to pretend before the American public and convince the American public that Donald Trump was tied up with who had been the arch enemy of the United States for many years, Russia. And that Donald Trump was pretty much a traitor to his country, hoping to get in office to benefit himself, to benefit Vladimir Putin and his designs on the world, and to undermine the U.S. elections and keep poor old Hillary, the victim, out, because poor old Hillary would have done right by the American people. And oh no, the evil Russians and Donald Trump thwarted her from ever getting in the White House. And then she goes on the View, boo hoo 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 hoo, oh poor me. There is absolutely, we all know that Donald Trump is with Russia, and all of it was built. It is all lies. It was lies then, it is lies now. And a responsible press, a responsible journalistic wing in America could have uncovered this through intense investigative reporting, but they never did it, and they never do it. And when anything could be harmful to the Democrat parties, because they're not interested in journalism. They see themselves, their proper role as the propaganda arm for the Democrat Party. That's what they see. The modern day mainstream media, they do not see themselves that their mission is journalism, to tell the truth, nothing but the truth, the whole truth, and when the whole truth isn't known, to dig out the whole truth. No, they see themselves as an appendage of the Democrat Party. They see themselves as having a vested interest in the success of the Democrat Party, and they see themselves as a weaponized foot soldiers against whatever Republican steps into power, especially ones that they hate personally. Republicans are bad enough. I mean, a lot of these people didn't hate George Bush 43 personally, but they hated he was a Republican, so they take him down. A lot of these Republicans didn't hate George Bush 41 personally, but they decided they have to take him down because he's not a Democrat. A lot of the mainstream press didn't hate some of the other figures. Now, they hate They hate they hated Dick Cheney. They did their best to try to destroy Dick Cheney. They hated Richard Nixon with a passion. And they were able to get rid of Richard Nixon, along with some of the missteps that Nixon did himself, to throw himself into the jowls, into the snarling jaws of the mainstream press. He helped, but they chewed him up and spit him out. And they hated him then, and they hate his memory now. They hated Ronald Reagan because the American people loved Ronald Reagan. And they saw it as their mission to not only tear Reagan down, but to also try to get in between Ronald Reagan and the love that the American people had for him. They hate with a passion like they have never hated before Donald Trump. And that is why there have been no investigations to this point, no real media investigations from the most powerful among the media, that being the New York Times, the Washington Post, the network television investigative crew, although a lot of that investigation has been shut down, their crews, because they're too expensive to run, but still, they can break stories. So what we have today is not only a denunciation against the politics of Hillary Clinton, of Barack Obama, a complete, now the receipts are coming out for how these people perverted the American intelligence community, willingly, by the way, how they perverted their power within the deep state to try to take down Donald Trump. But it also shows how perverted the media has become, and you will see in coming days a full-fledged effort on the mainstream media to either obfuscate or completely ignore what has been released today. Chuck Grassley, you can find the full context in the news release. If you go to grassley.senate.gov, you can find a link to it. This document is intense. The annex to Durham's report, he has been trying, a United States Senator has been trying for years to get this, which ought to tell you something, that they keep information even from those at the highest level of power. A senator should be able to get any piece of government information he wants. But no, not this. He's been trying for years to get it. The potential election influence by a foreign government regarding Hillary Clinton, false statements to the FISA court, FBI's failure under James Comey to investigate intelligence that the Clinton campaign may have created the Russian collusion hoax. James Comey complicit in not investigating it. They knew it, in other words, but he didn't want to investigate it and put the proof to it. James Comey, FBI, would rather let the lie live that Donald Trump was actively working against the interest of the United States of America with Russia than use the FBI to actually investigate and bring the facts forward to the American people. And as I said, this goes high up. This goes dead into the DNC. It goes into Debbie Wasserman Schultz. It goes into Barack Obama. It goes into the FBI. All of it. It goes into George Soros and his organization and their ties to Hillary Clinton. It is amazing what is being exposed in these days and times. Now, I don't have 100% confidence we're ever going to see justice done in this, because some of the players that are involved in this are among the most powerful players in American political life. FBI Kash Patel, Princess Diana just sent me this, and then we're going to head to a break. This is a ex-post from FBI Director Kash Patel. We uncovered this annex, along with thousands of other documents buried in a back room at the FBI. It revealed a highly classified piece of the Durham report, evidence that the Clinton campaign plotted to frame President Trump and fabricate the Russian collusion hoax. This what we was talking about. They found the burn bags. And somebody left those burn bags there, I bet, in the hopes that they would be found. The burn bags, where you're supposed to destroy all classified information so there's no trace of it that you want to get rid of. They call them burn bags, Carlos, and they keep them at the FBI. You put all your sensitive classified documents in burn bags. They're supposed to be incinerated so no one ever can see them, the light of day. Somebody left these. They buried them at the FBI, but they have been found, and they implicate Hillary Rodham Clinton and the entire Obama administration in a farce that was perpetrated on the American people, and that Americans for the last 10 years have believed. We'll be back, folks. Don't go away.
The Rush Hour with James Golden on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
We see you getting after your fitness goals. But what about those money goals? You can count on Credit Karma for a clear view of your finances and your progress, helping you see results so you can keep checking off those financial personal bests and find your way to money. Progress never felt so good. Intuit Credit Karma. Karma you can count on. Download the app today.
This episode is brought to you by Espolón Tequila. Slow, sticky, snoozy. They call these the dog days of summer. But Espolón? They don't do boring. Welcome to the Marg Days. Espolón Tequila. 100% blue Weber agave, born to shake up your summer. Just add lime, agave, and a little attitude. Visit espolontequila.com. Espolón Tequila, 40% alcohol, volume 80 proof. Copyright 2025 Campari America, New York, New York. Drink responsibly.
AI is moving fast. So fast, it's hard to keep up. In fact, in ServiceNow's latest AI Maturity Index, scores dipped 20% from last year. But that's okay, because AI isn't a sprint. It's a marathon. You may be behind today, but tomorrow you could be a pace setter. Dive into ServiceNow's AI Maturity Index and see how you can innovate as fast as your ambitions. Visit servicenow.com/AI maturity.
The Rush Hour with James Golden. Entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
My friends, that first segment went long. This segment is going to be short. So what we're going to do this segment is let you hear from two of your liberal friends' voices.
Well, I hope you're happy, Maggots. You got your email over innocent justice for life. And you've got 2 million people starving to death in Gaza. Have a good one, you maggots.
I don't really care. I'm going to say the quiet part out loud, but we need to make it dangerous to be a billionaire. We need to make it dangerous to be filthy rich. We need to make it dangerous to be racist, etc. You know what I mean? Because we need to make it to where people will go, do I really want to be a billionaire? I'm just going to die. So why would I? You know what I mean? You know what I mean?
The Rush Hour with James Golden on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The Rush Hour with James Golden. Entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Look, folks, we have so much to go through by way of audio. I can't spend all show with this. I'm looking forward to catching up with, on Saturday, maybe if we're lucky, tomorrow, Princess Diana, to go through this, because this declassified annex, there is so much to this. And then, and Lady Benedict raised an interesting point. She says, you know, you were talking about the burn bag stuff. What's been salvaged? What do you think? Goodness. Does it ever make you wonder what didn't survive and what actually got burnt over the years that we would have wanted to know? The answers to many things, I am sure, are in the burn bag. So I'm going to just leave this for now. But this, folks, deserves a lot more time and energy. But I do want to report on several other things that happened today. Let us go to cut 5. Carolyn Levitt, this will speak for itself. She had a presser today. Cut 5.
The so-called economic experts repeatedly said that the American economy would be in a recession this summer. Well, summer is here. It's almost over, and that recession does not exist. Yesterday, in fact, real GDP growth in the second quarter increased at a 3.0% annual rate, significantly above expectations. President Trump's America First policies are driving economic growth, as he always said they would. And this growth is being driven by the private sector, not the government. Federal government spending fell for a second straight quarter, while real business fixed investment rose by nearly 2% following its first quarter surge. President Trump is right-sizing government spending, reversing the damage done by the Biden administration, and allowing the private sector to flourish. The same so-called experts claimed that President Trump's tariffs would spike inflation and hurt American consumers. But consumer spending growth just accelerated, and inflation remains right on track. For the past 5 straight months, core inflation has come in below market expectation and remains in line with the Fed's 2% inflation target. Meanwhile, customs and tariff revenues have already totaled more than $150 billion since President Trump took office, leading to the first June budget surplus in nearly a decade.
And that is an amazing assessment of the economy. Now, Caroline Levitt was also asked about this apparent rift, although they've spoken. Josh Hawley, Senator Josh Hawley, voted with the Democrats to tank a measure that would have led to a report on Nancy Pelosi's transactions in the stock market. For the life of me, I've tried to I read a few stories about this. For the life of me, still don't understand the reasoning from Josh Hawley on this, but she was asked about it, and here was her response. That's cut 7, Carlos. Caroline Levitt on Hawley and Pelosi.
Have you talked with the president about his position on the stock trading ban bill before Congress? He obviously had pretty loaded comments about Senator Hawley. There's some reporting that they've since spoken. What is his position on the current status of that bill?
The president has spoken to Senator Hawley, who called him, and the president took that call. As the president said in the Roosevelt Room yesterday, conceptually, he of course supports the idea of ensuring that members of Congress and United States senators who are here for public service cannot enrich themselves. And the reason that this idea to put a ban on stock trading for members of Congress is even a thing is because of Nancy Pelosi. I mean, she is rightfully criticized because she makes, I think, $174,000 a year, yet she has a net worth of approximately $413 million. In 2024, Nancy Pelosi's stock portfolio, this was a fascinating statistic to me, grew 70% in 1 year in 2024, and her portfolio outperformed every single large hedge fund in that same year, and even more than doubled the returns of Warren Buffett's Berkshire Hathaway. So I think the president stands with the American people on this. He doesn't want to see people like Nancy Pelosi enriching themselves off of public service and ripping off their constituents in the process. As for the mechanics of the legislation and how it will move forward, the White House continues to be in discussions with our friends on Capitol Hill.
Now, that said, Jake Tapper had old Pelosi on and tried to ask her. This was, that didn't go too well for old Jakey here. Let's cut 9, Carlos, and let's see how that turned out with Jake having Nancy on.
It was. Let me just read what he said. I'm sorry that we had some sort of technical issue. Nancy Pelosi became rich.
Why do you have to read that? We're here to talk about the 60th anniversary of Medicaid. That's what I agreed to come to talk about.
But I wanted
what that means in the election.
I wanted to give you a chance just to respond. He accused you of insider trading. What's your response to that?
That's ridiculous. In fact, I very much support the trading of members of Congress. Not that I think anybody's doing anything wrong if they are. they are prosecuted and they go to jail. But because of the confidence it instills in the American people, don't worry about this. But I have no concern about the obvious investments that had been made over time. I'm not into it, my husband is, but it isn't anything to do with anything insider. But the president has his own exposure, so he's always projecting. He's always projecting. And let's not give him any more time on that, please. We're going forward here, and I'm very proud of my family, and while he might make fun of us while somebody inspired by him breaks into our home and hits my husband in a deadly fashion, hits my husband over the head, and he thinks that's a riot, I'd rather not go into some of my other complaints about him right now. Rather to talk about the 60th anniversary of Medicaid.
Now, this woman, by the way, has been doing all she can to damage Donald Trump. And she has said some awful things about Donald Trump. So now she plays the victim and tries to pretend that Donald Trump supports the person that came in, this deranged person, into her home, past her security with all those millions of dollars. She can't afford better security, apparently. And did that horrible thing to her husband, which nobody in their sane mind would say was a good thing. So come on. Always these people with the political angles, and that's how come no one trusts most of them. Everything they do is an angle. Oh, well, you hear that? Okay, how can I twist this to hurt Trump? How can I twist this to... The point is, Nancy Pelosi, nobody understands how you or your husband can outperform all these financial wizards. And so people do have suspicions. If you are innocent... And by the way, I'm not accusing her of anything. I don't know how the mechanics work where she can make that much money in stocks and outperform everybody, unless her husband is the ultimate stock genius. But people have yes, Carlos, people have a right to ask.
There are applications on App Store and Android out there just following her and, making moves for you as well. I know friends that have made quite an amount of money just following her moves because of those applications.
Whoa. What is it? Can you do some research and find out the names of some of those applications there? Carlos,
I don't know, because now they stopped it for her, so I could find the names.
They haven't stopped it yet. They're still out there trading. Find out the names of those applications and share, bro. Please. So you got that with Nancy Pelosi and this move to stop your congressman from trading stock based on inside information. Now, let's go back, because I just wanted you to hear this one cut regarding Jerome Powell, who yesterday refused to lower interest rates. That he was on, there was the head of Azoria, their CEO, was on with Stuart Varney, and very quickly cut 8. This is what he had to say about Jerome Powell. This was before the announcement, by the way.
Turns out that Jerome Powell is simply the Anthony Fauci of economics. Whoa. Wrong, smug, and completely unaccountable. He's wrong, Stuart, because just last month he told us in his official projections that GDP was going to come in at 1.4%. It came in at 3%, more than double his expectations. President Trump is winning on that front. Second, he's smug because despite every conceivable data point, despite the fact that under President Trump, inflation is coming at 1.8% annualized, not at, but below the Fed's target, he's all but certain to keep interest rates near 20-year highs today. And lastly, he's unaccountable. For the first time in 30 years, Stuart, there are going to be 2 Fed governors, Mickey Bowman and Chris Waller, who are going to dissent from the Fed today, saying that the Fed should be cutting today, but in fact aren't. And that's why Azoria sued Jerome Powell in federal court last week. Yep. We want accountability and transparency from Jerome Powell.
Now, let's move on very quickly to another subject that just briefly that came up during Caroline Leavitt's press conference. This is number 6. I think this will speak for itself, and she speaks truth.
On the peace front, President Trump helped deliver an immediate and unconditional ceasefire between Thailand and Cambodia. The 2 countries were engaged in a deadly conflict that had displaced more than 300,000 people until President Trump stepped in to put an end to it. The president spoke directly on the phone with the acting Prime Minister of Thailand and the Prime Minister of Cambodia to inform both leaders that unless they brought their conflict to an end, there would be no trade discussions or agreements with the United States. Almost immediately afterward, a peace was brokered that will save thousands of lives and allowed for trade negotiations with these countries to resume, and they have. The president has now ended conflicts between Thailand and Cambodia, Israel and Iran, Rwanda and the Democratic Republic of the Congo, India and Pakistan, Serbia and Kosovo, and Egypt and Ethiopia. This means President Trump has brokered, on average, about one peace deal or ceasefire per month during his 6 months in office. It's well past time that President Trump was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize.
Boom and wow and yes. Now, let's see. There are a few other things. By the way, have you seen that new Dunkin' Donuts ad that has the left inner fury too? So now it's just not American Eagle. You got some kid looking like, I guess, their version of Apollo. He's just such a good-looking kid, and he's out talking about his jeans and how it's summer, whatever, and whatever. And now there are calls to boycott Dunkin' Donuts because they don't like their ad. So it mentioned jeans. And so you got the American Eagles thing. That thing is still raging across the end. Raging. You would think that that's the most important thing in this country, not in some of the other things that are going on. But I almost got sucked into this black woman on social media that was commenting on the American thing, and it took me a quick minute to realize that what I'm hearing wasn't what I thought I was hearing. So I thought I would share that with you in some of the remaining moments that we have left. That is cut 19, Carlos, and let's hear it.
I just threw all of my jeans away because jeans are racist. And if I see anybody on the street wearing jeans, I'm going to point at them and say, "You're a eugenicist, you're a eugenicist, you're a eugenicist." Because when there were cowboys, the black ones were not allowed to wear jeans. They had to wear cotton shorts while they were riding horses. Jeans are racist. I even had to throw my jean dress away that I just bought because it's blue. Had it been black, I would have kept it, but it was blue. So I threw it away too, and it was expensive. It was really nice, but I threw it away because I will not be seen in jeans ever again in life. I bet you back in the 1800s, the only people who wore jeans were eugenicists. And if I ever wear jeans again, somebody just beat me down.
Like you in Cincinnati.
Now, I will wear my black jeans. I kept all of those because they're black. But I will never be seen in blue jeans again. And if I see anybody in blue jeans, I already know. They're eugenicists and they work in laboratories or at Planned Parenthood. So, I do have a pair of white jeans that I might hold on to because just to write protest stuff on and wear in public, probably to the fair today.
Yeah, it took me a minute to figure out she was trolling. Because some of the absurdities sound like the typical stuff that leftists spew. Whatever you do, do not go away.
The Rush Hour with James Golden on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
En momentos intensos necesitas una hidratación que esté a tu nivel. Hidrátate con Liquid IV, científicamente diseñada para reponer rápidamente electrolitos y líquidos perdidos durante tu ejercicio. Hidrata tu ejercicio favorito con Liquid IV, formulada con 3 veces la cantidad de electrolitos que la bebida deportiva líder del mercado, más 8 vitaminas y nutrientes. También disponible sin azúcar. Abre, vierte, vive más. Conoce más en liquidiv.com.
The Rush Hour with James Golden. Entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
James Golden and Snerdley with you, fastest hour in American media. Let's check in quickly. Immigration, those battles are still being waged across America. Here is the mayor of Los Angeles, Karen Bass.
Let me tell you what I'm worried about now. The ICE race. People who have been detained, you're talking about taking an income away from a household. So I've talked to some of the people who lost their spouses, their spouses were detained or whatever, and they're not sure how they're going to make the rent. Right. So we could have a whole new influx of homeless people because of policies like ICE. And what has happened over the years is politicians, and see, I can say that because I am one, politicians who pass policies don't think of the unintended consequences, and some of those policies put people on the street.
Well, here's the thing, though, Karen. Since you mentioned it about politicians, and you are one, you are one about politicians who make all kind of legislation, but they don't think about the unintended consequences. That's a perfect thing, because guess what? You, Karen, and Gavin Newsom and all you Democrats made this policy called sanctuary cities, sanctuary states, and you know what? It's against the law, but there are unintended consequences. And here's the unintended consequence, Karen. Right now, the law is being enforced. See, you didn't think that was ever going to happen. But now, the law is being enforced. And the unintended consequences of your sanctuary state, your sanctuary city, by coming home to roost. You, not ICE, are responsible for those homeless people if they're going to be homeless. It's you, Karen, you, Gavin, who are totally responsible for all of this. We got to go. May God bless, protect each and every single one of you, your families, your loved ones. Love and gratitude, my friends, for your being here with me on this, the fastest hour in American media, and allowing me to be with you. God willing, we're back tomorrow for the Friday edition of Bo Snerdley's Rush Hour. Until then, I bid you adieu. Bye.
Thanks for listening to Bo Snerdley's Rush Hour. You can hear Bo Snerdley's Rush Hour weekdays at 4 on 77 WABC. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode so you never have to wonder.
What the heck is going on here?